Good evening. Welcome to the May 22nd regular City Commission meeting. I ask that everyone either turn off their cell phone or put it in the silent mode. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by silent meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is consideration of previous meeting minutes from the May 8th meeting. Any changes, additions, deletions, or comments from the commission? No. Any of these? Not, I'll take a motion.
Move. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
I go ahead to move to approve the minutes from our meeting of Tuesday, May 8th.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the meeting, minutes of the May 8th meeting as presented. Begin voting. Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Next item requires a roll call vote. Second consideration ordinance number 8075, amending chapter 110. I think this is the police chief.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I have received no comments. There have been no changes since 2 weeks ago. It's ready to move forward if you are.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners for the chief?
These were on the streets that were in the vicinity of Zech Ford?
Yes, sir.
The no parking on various sides on that.
Okay.
No. Any other questions or comments? Requires roll call vote. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Dedeke.
Aye.
Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Chief. Next item, new business citizens participation. This part of the meeting is reserved for any citizens that would care to address the commission or present a petition to the city clerk. And if you do care to address the commission, I'd ask that you speak on items that are not on tonight's agenda. There'll be a time to speak on those if you want to speak towards those. Does anyone care to address the commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to general items. First item is Alliance Against Family Violence request for funding.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, at the May 15th City Commission study session, members of the Alliance Against Family Violence Board, along with Joyce Grover, the Executive Director of the Kansas Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence, presented a plan to get the Alliance operation going again. The first step of that plan was to become debt-free, which the organization under the transitional leadership of Ms. Grover and the strong board members that were attended the meeting have done. Their next plan, their next step in the process is to raise about $150,000 of money that they need to begin operations before they can start receiving grant funding that will allow them to continue to operate. They requested $50,000 in matching funds from the city. There was a consensus at the study session to move that forward. I put a motion in front of you, the city clerk and I drafted, that would essentially authorize the city manager upon seeing matching funds of $50,000 to then expend those to the Alliance Against Family Violence. You're free to amend that motion, read it as is, or add anything you'd like to add.
I had the chance to speak with General Cherry about this because I felt that we needed to put a closing date on it, that it couldn't be out there ad infinitum. And I asked him if he'd be amenable to September 30th, end of the third quarter. And he said that would be more than enough time, that he feels strongly he'll raise his $50,000 from the community for us to match long before September 30th. So I believe that we should put an end date on it of September 30th, 2018.
If that would be something the commission was amenable to, I would just probably recommend adding that after the three words attached, attained matching funds by September 30th, then go forward, and then also direct the city manager to let you know when we have received that notification and expended the funds.
Any other comments?
I have a question. Okay, explain to me, okay, the 50,000, they're getting 50 some thousand from the county. They have to match it with 50,000, and then ours says we have to match it. Does that mean they have to collect 100,000?
That
I
was
thought
my
I thought the county was a grant, was not
Right, and
matching.
they've already expended that.
Yeah,
The
that
county's
wasn't-
already granted them that. It was money that the county had actually already set aside, they just didn't give it to them because they weren't in operation.
Right.
So they've gotten that money, and then they'll have ours with the match for a total of $150,000.
Okay, but
The
I
the
thought,
county has line items where they do give out money to
Okay,
charitable
yeah.
organizations where we don't. And theirs, they don't have any matching requirements to get the county money. They're getting that 50 or 55 from them.
I thought they requested that. Maybe I didn't
Maybe,
understand that.
maybe, I could be wrong.
That's
but
what I thought as well.
I know
So-
ours is matching, but I thought
Ours is
that
matching, but not, the county's not the match.
they just
Okay.
gave them, they gave them
That's-
50 or
no.
55 grand.
Right.
Okay. So
Was,
we're,
Mr. Mayor, was, General Cherry, was he amenable to the, like, 4-month, I guess we're talking about 4
Oh,
months,
yeah,
right?
I mean, he's,
Confident that he could,
I don't wanna say he's overconfident.
Right.
Oh, man, that's more than enough time. You don't have to give me that much time. I said, I think,
Okay.
yeah. I think
Well, I think
we'll do
that's
it. Yeah, September
reasonable.
30th. It's
All right.
4 months, end
Right.
of the third quarter.
he'll get it.
He thinks he can
okay,
get it.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Not, take a motion.
I move that we provide the city manager the authority to expend up to $50,000 for the Alliance Against Family Violence, provided the group has attained matching funds by September 30, and direct the city manager to report to the city commission when such funds are expended.
Second.
And that's September 30th, 2018.
2018, sorry.
Motion and a second for giving the Alliance $50,000 for matching funds. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0, thank you. Next item is review of property on demolition list at 1921 Fifth Avenue.
Our city planner, Julie Hurley, will handle this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. As you said, this is a review of a demolition property at 1921 Fifth Avenue. The commission first reviewed this property as part of a list on October 10th of 2017. At that time, the owner, Doug New, stated that he believed he could have all repairs made within about 8 to 10 months, and so the commission voted at that time to review progress in 30 days. The commission reviewed it again at the November 14th, 2000 City Commission meeting and voted to give an extension of 90 days. The commission reviewed the property on February 13th after that 90-day extension. At that time, all the vegetation had been removed, new siding had been installed on the main level of the house, and the owner indicated that he would need an additional 90 days to complete the siding and get repairs or get bids done on the roof. Commission voted at that time to give another 90-day extension, which brings us to where we are now. Since that time, the roof has been replaced. Siding on the second story of the house on these sort of dormer projections still needs to be replaced. And he has started working on the installing some new boards around the soffits and eaves. So it is just minor things remaining, and he is here to address his progress and his plan going forward.
Any questions, Ms. Hurley, from the commission before we ask Mr. New to speak?
Great job, because he had me worried at first.
Any questions of Ms. Hurley? Mr. New, would you like to speak?
It has taken me longer than I really was.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
It was taking me longer than
Oh, okay.
I was really planning, but through the weather and everything, I got this far, but I think it's gonna go faster. Now that I can get on the roof, I'm gonna do the dormers around, get them sided, and finish replacing the soffit all the way around. I'd say probably within 30 days, I should have that done.
Any questions for Mr. New?
Are you doing the work yourself, Mr. New?
The roof I did have some help on.
So it's the siding up on the dormers?
On the dormers.
And the
yeah.
soffits.
And then the soffits, yeah.
Okay.
Commissioners, what do you recommend? Right now, we have it, we granted a 90-day extension, which is up right now. I guess we have options of either removing it from the demo list, extending it, giving another extension, or demo the property.
Well, I say extend it for an additional 30 days because he made some major improvements.
I think we just should remove it.
Remove it.
Remove it from the demolition list
I
because
think
it's
where
not
that
a,
well's been shown.
it's not a demolishable property at this point.
I think Mr. New has shown good faith. And what did you say, 60 days or 30 days? Did you say?
I said 30, I should be able to finish the dormers and the soffit.
Right. I think that with the improvements that he's made thus far, I think it's just a matter of time. So in this case, I do think removing him from the list would be a good idea.
Okay.
Need a motion.
We haven't done it yet, Mr. New, hang on, we got. But I think you're gonna get lucky tonight. Yeah, I will take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we remove 1921 Fifth Avenue from the demolition,
Second.
list.
A motion and a second to remove the property 1921 Fifth Avenue from the demo list. Begin voting, Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Aye, pass 5-0. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
well,
New,
thank
good
you
luck,
very
and we look forward
Thank
to
you,
having
Mr.
it done
New.
here.
I'll get it done.
We'll say by the 4th
By
of
4th of July.
Okay?
yes.
Looks
Okay,
a whole lot
appreciate it.
better.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Mayor's appointment to the Leavenworth County Development Corporation, LCDC. I move to appoint Lisa Weekly to the Grow Leavenworth County Development Corporation to a term ending May 31st, 2020.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve Lisa Weekly to the Grow Leavenworth County Development Corporation. Begin voting, Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item, City Commission goal changes.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, following the adoption of the City Commission goals on April 24th, Mayor Preisinger and Commissioner Griswold had met to talk about some proposed changes that Commissioner Griswold had made, and I believe came to this agreement on adding a few goals. I think all of these were talked about in the goal-setting session, but in some way or another, maybe not directly, but and then adding them to the goals. The document that was presented to me had the following changes in them. Under economic development, to add lobby and advocate for the VA CMOP to stay in Leavenworth. Also add work to reduce the number of unoccupied or abandoned buildings using available tools, methods, and incentives. Under community improvement, just slightly altering one of the subheads to community appearance and image. Modifying one of the goals to say increase youth participation in all city activities, all being the change there. Adding continue actions by code enforcement to reduce and eliminate blighted properties. And then finally, under public safety, to add a general subhead. Some of the goals under that do have ramifications, city manager level, fire level, police level, and other city departments. So adding that general subhead, and then modifying one of the goals to support efforts of local organizations to reduce incidents of domestic violence and work with victims. The red line document is attached for your review, and it's before you for consideration tonight.
Any comments, Commissioner Griswold? I know this, you
No,
led the charge on this one.
No, I just felt that those were things that we had talked about, not only in the strategic goals meeting that we have, but also in previous meetings, either study sessions or meetings of the commission. And I thought that they would just kind of round out and document some things that we had on our agenda that we had talked about. So that's why I did what I did, and I would recommend that we go ahead and adopt them. If there's any questions, or I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments? How about you make the motion, Commissioner Griswold?
Yeah, yes, I will make a motion that we adopt the city commission goals for 2018 and 2019 as presented by the city manager for today's meeting.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the city commission goals as presented and amended. Begin voting, Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0, thank you. Next item, Resolution B 2200, capital lease agreement, the Baxter truck for the water
Yeah,
treatment plant.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, at your last meeting, you approved the low bid for the Vector truck, and at that time, we mentioned that the lease would come back before you. That's what this is. Following the award of the bid, we entered into negotiations. We identified a leasing firm. It's not free to lease vehicles. You have to pay for the ability to pay over the course of 3 years. I wanted to make one note. In the minutes from the last meeting, there was a dollar amount quoted in there. I had it tagged earlier. Carly, do you have the top of your head?
397, 750, 53.
And once we entered into negotiations and finalized our lease payments with the leasing company, it ended up being about $3,800 more than that, just due to interest rates at the time, the finalization of the lease, and all the costs associated with that. Our city attorney has reviewed the lease, and it's before you tonight for final adoption in the amount of $401,849.13.
Questions or comments for Mr. Kramer or Mr. McDonald? And if we approve this, we're still looking 60, 90 days to get the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And as a reminder, this is the absolute heart and soul of the operation outside of the plant. Anything that we do outside of the plant dealing with sanitary sewer requires this Vector truck. This is a workhorse, and it's out there, if not every day, at least every other day.
You see it all over town just about every
Yeah,
day.
it is, and we cannot do our work without this piece of machinery.
And it's and just refresh my memory, it's replacing a truck that's at the end of its useful life, or?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
And we had this in the CIP last year.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I mean, it was all planned. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Not, I'll take a motion.
I move that we pass Resolution B 2200 capital lease agreement for the Vector truck WBC as presented.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt Resolution B 2200 as presented. Begin voting. Commissioner Griswold?
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item is consider bids for water pollution control settled sewage motor project.
Turn this over to Mike McDonald and Chuck Staples.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, this is part of our ongoing effort to operate the wastewater plant in the most efficient manner possible, and this really is critical when it comes to the ultraviolet disinfection system. We have 4 pumps that are used to control the water that goes to the trickling filters and then the final clarifiers and through the UV system. We have had good success with converting 2 of the 4 pumps or the motors into a variable speed drive to lessen the number of on-off cycles on the UV bulbs. The other 2 motors are older than the first 2 motors I mentioned, and they are not physically capable of having the variable speed attachments put on it, if you will. As a consequence, we are recommending that these 2 motors be replaced with 2 motors set up for variable speed drive. And we advertised this and received the bids as noted in the policy report, and I recommend that the low bid from Douglas Pump be approved.
Anything to add, Mr. Staples?
No. We've had really good luck with our first 2 VFDs we put in, and we're going to be able to extend the life of the lamps, maybe from 3 years to maybe 8 years.
That'd be good.
Mike, this does include installation in this bid.
Yes.
Okay.
And we will, the old motors we'll try to sell. I don't know they have a lot of value because they don't meet the current expectations in the industry of being variable speed capable. But they are serviceable, operational, and we will try to sell them.
Any other questions for Mr. McDonald or Mr. Staples? If not, I'll take a motion.
I move that we award the purchase contract to Douglas Pump Services in the amount not to exceed $62,289.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the bids and award the bid to Douglas Pump Services for $62,289. Begin voting. Commissioner Bowder?
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item is change order for contract number 2017-77, 3 Mile Creek Bank Stabilization Project.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, I'll start on this one, and Mr. McDonald's here if you have any questions. This deals with the inspection contract on the big 3 Mile Creek project that we did down by the steel factory lofts. The inspection contract, we have a change order in front of you. The important information is under the 5 bullet points. During construction, it was determined that there would be some excess soil to be moved outside of the area. This project allowed us to move soil within the area. If you take it out, as the next sentence says, it required the material to be tested by an X-ray fluorescent detector to determine the metal content and other contaminants in the soil due to the nature of the area, the industrial fill of the creek bed down there. Results of the testing required additional reporting to KDHE and One Gas and determined how the off-site soil was to be handled during storage and disposed of off-site. The cost for managing this excess waste soil exceeded the funds available in the purchase order with SCS engineers, resulting in the change order tonight. The change order is in the amount of $3,750. If you're wondering why you're seeing this when I have change order authority, it's because it's more than 10% of the original contract. I was able to sign the original contract, which was under $25,000, but the change order was more than 10% of that contract.
Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Kramer?
No, but I have to say, I was down there last night, I took lots of pictures, it really does look nice.
Yeah.
I wish people didn't leave so much trash and stuff down there, it needs to be cleaned up, and there's quite a bit of mud and stuff like that on the trail, but it really does look good. It really looks like it's gonna last for a long time.
Any other questions? I'll take a motion.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve the change order number 1 to the inspection contract with SCS engineers for the 3 Mile Creek Bank Stabilization Project in an amount not to exceed $3,750 for a total contract amount not to exceed $28,182.50.
I second it.
Motion and second to approve the change order for contract number 2017-77 as presented. Begin voting. Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you. Two first consideration ordinances. First one is first consideration to rescind special use permits.
Carla Williamson, our city clerk, will handle this item.
This issue before the City Commission is first consideration to rescind special use permits for this year. The first special use permit at 1707 limit is for a child care center. That one, the special use permit, they failed to pay the annual permit fee of $25 to keep the special use permit in force. We did contact them, send them several notices. We do believe that it's no longer a daycare center. We just didn't get them to send us something in writing saying it was no longer needed, but we feel that it is no longer needed and they are no longer a daycare center. So that one would be the first one to be rescinded. And under the 2016 Development Regulations, Article 2, Section 2.04, it does allow us to do an administrative recension of an ordinance. The next 4 are all daycare centers, and all 4 of those are no longer operating as daycare centers, and they did provide us written notification that they no longer are daycares and no longer need the special use permit or required to keep them in force. So this is just first consideration on those, and would take a consensus to move forward.
Any questions from the commissioners? Do we have a consensus to move this one forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have a consensus. Next item, another consensus item, first consideration ordinance for general obligation bond series 2018-A.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, this is the second step in the bond issuance process. You passed a resolution prior to this, and this is your first consideration ordinance. Again, this covers work for the annual pavement management program, as well as the New Lawrence Road project. So this, again, is just the second step in the issuance of these bonds.
Mr. City,
Go ahead.
Mr. Kramer, can you, this is for purchasing bonds that would pay off notes, is that? How's that process, what are the steps, the major steps in that?
We sell bonds on the open bond market.
Right.
And so then we receive the funds, and then we pay off that debt annually with the portion of the countywide sales tax and a portion of the property tax that we assign to debt reduction. So we were able to get the money all at once and then bond it over a number of years. And this is the steps required to put those bonds out on the market to have somebody purchase them.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Now, do we have a consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Next thing is consent agenda.
Yes, for the claims, I'll make a motion for the consent agenda here in a minute in terms of claims. The bulk of the funds for the 1.4 million, approximately 1.4 million, was 1.1 million for JMK Partners Limited Liability Corporation. They're the company that's doing the development out at the Business and Technology Park. This is the fourth of the 5 payments that they'll receive, and they're close to being done. Their deadline is the 30th of June, and I think City Manager, Mr. Kramer, told me that they have a trail and some landscaping to do. So I just wanted to point that out. The bulk of the claim here was for this particular company that's been working on the Business and Technology Park in terms of development. But I will go ahead and move that we approve claims for May 5th, 2018 through May 18th, 2018 in the amount of $1,446,561.31. Net amount for pay number 10 effective May 11th, 2018 in the amount of $306,665.47. No police and fire pension.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Begin voting. Commissioner Bowder?
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Discussion among commissioners. Anything? Commissioner Bowder?
Well, Monday's going to be Memorial Day, and just for the general public, there are 2 wonderful events, one at the VA and one at Fort Leavenworth. The one at Fort Leavenworth is at 11:40. I plan to attend that. The one at the VA, I'm not sure. I believe it's 9 o'clock. It's earlier, I know that. But they're both really beautiful events, and if you care to attend, they're open to the public, so please join us. Thank you.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Wilson, Commissioner Griswold?
No.
I think I announced to the commission a couple months ago that I'm one of the lay people on the judge nominating commission for openings in the 1st Judicial District. We do have an opening. Judge Gunnar Sundby is retiring effective June 15th, and we've been notified by the Supreme Court that we will be meeting to pick, I think we picked 3 potential judges that we will move forward for the governor to select one of those 3, and I suspect that to be happening sometime in the next month. I know we have some conference phone calls with one of the Supreme Court justices here in the next couple of weeks and move that forward. And the 1st Judicial District is basically Leavenworth County and Atchison County. I don't know if it goes into Jefferson County or not. Maybe Mr. Waters knows. Your dad's on this thing with me.
Yeah, I don't remember if it goes that far or not. It is a joint district.
Yeah. And 30 or 31 districts in the entire state. So that's where we are. So that'll be happening. We'll have probably a new judge in district court here at the Justice Center for the 1st Judicial District, probably, I'd say by mid-July, I'm guessing, hoping it goes that quickly. Mr. Kramer?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Waters?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Williams? Now I'll take a motion to someone.
Nope.
What did you
Okay.
say?
I didn't know that.
I fainted.
I'm
sorry.
So moved.
Got a motion, do I have a second? Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 We're adjourned.